Thank you. O tēnā tātou katoa, ko karioi te manga, ko whangaro te moana, ko tainui te waka, ko tainui te hapu, ko Lydia Storytime. So I hail from Raglan in the Waikato, but he uri ahau o Ngāti Porou, Ngāti Koata, Ngāti Tahinga Hoki. But I've been living in Rotorua for 50 years, so I married someone from Te Arawa. Today I was asked to talk about just my own personal experience, and all of you in here have had experiences of someone close to you dying. So I just want to talk about my husband died Christmas Eve just gone. It was sudden, and he was in the hospital for like 3 days before he died because he was unwell, and anyway, it happened. So I know today we're going to be talking about the cooling pad, and I was lucky enough that we did use that for him, but I just want to go back before the cooling pad and just talk about, I just remember when he died, it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I just remember Denise saying at a library wānanga, what's the first thing you do when someone dies? And it's do nothing. And I just remembered that was to do nothing. And so it was just him and I. And then the second thing, go and make a cup of tea. I didn't have a cup of tea, but anyway, that was all good. And then the other thing I remembered was what Garth said, was about how once we die, the bacteria love it. They're going to start coming alive and decomposition will start happening. So it was like, oh right, what do I need to do? So then I thought about manaki mats, which are we're going to talk about as well. And I asked the nurses in the ward, can you go and get me some manaki mats? And they said, what are those? And I said, go to the birthing unit, they will tell you, they will give them to you. So I'm lucky that I was informed because I'd been at a wānanga here before. So I knew that there were manaki mats. And I actually pulled up the internet on my phone and said, here, Lakes, you've got manaki mats. So then they went and got them.
Every hospital in New Zealand has got them.
So it's just about being informed too. Like I didn't know they were there, but I knew before he died. So that was cool. Honestly, the staff were so amazing. There was an Indian nurse who said to me, Lydia, we'd had some kōrero during the night, but she said, and what we believe is you do not leave the person who's deceased alone for 24 hours. So she said to me, you are to stay here in this room with him. And then another nurse came up and said, oh, we can take him to the morgue. I'm going, but who's down there? And they said, no one. And I said, well, no, we're staying here. Because I said, and at 8 o'clock or 8:30, you're to ring Garth. And they go, who's Garth? I said, down in the morgue. I said, when he's there, that's when we're going. So it's about just, thank goodness I had some of this information in my brain. But so we did go down when Garth was at work, and thank goodness for that, because all I said to Garth was, here we are, my husband, can you look after him? Can you plug his holes because I don't want to do it? I think I said that. And Garth was great. He said, I'll chill him down for you. And then I went home for a shower. I had some other whānau come up and sit up at the morgue while I went home and had a shower and came back. But anyway, it was all good. So when we got back up there, Garth had them all ready, and I walked in the room and there's this white face. And I'm going, what the? Anyway, it was the aqueous cream on his face. Yeah, and it was like, oh my goodness, what is that? But now I know what that's for. So, and then Garth just said to me, you can wipe it off when you get home and put it on every day, blah. So giving me the good instructions. And then I'd organised for my husband had a van, and my daughter said, I'll come and pick Dad up, Mum. So she brought the van up with a mattress in the back, and that's how we took him home. But the other thing that really, because I had to sign him out of the morgue, thank goodness Garth was there, because I had to fill a form out to say where he was going to be buried and that I would be looking after his body. So that's something I think the funeral directors do normally, and they probably charge you money for that. So I signed that form so I could take him home, and we didn't have a coffin because it was Christmas Eve. And so I did think about a shroud, but because he's much taller than me and bigger. There wasn't one big enough, so I thought we'll worry about that later. We just had him on a sheet from the morgue, and like we did today, took him home on that. And when we got home, all the whānau were there to take him inside. Thank goodness Sarah was on call 24/7. I'd text Sarah early hours of the morning, I think, to say my husband had died and I wanted to use the cooling pad. So she brought that around to my whare before we got there, and I assigned my son's partner to be in charge of it because I knew I wasn't going to be one to look after it. So she took the instructions from Sarah, I think, and did a great job. So we had him in our lounge under the aircon. It was hot that day, but anyway, cooled the room down. The cooling pad was there, and we lay him on that, and honestly, he just looked like he was asleep. And he looked so good that my mokos, all the way time he was at home, they kept going up and kissing him and going, koko. But they, we had the kōrero about him, he's died, and so I think that was for me really important that our mokos were closely involved and they were sitting with him and slobbering on him. There's a headpiece on the cooling mat, which I think I said to Garth, there's this headpiece. I don't know that we should. Why would you put him on there? And now I know why you need that. But the other great thing about it was, while he was lying there, my daughter was able to groom him. So she gave him a haircut, plucked his eyebrows, and hair out of the nose and all that stuff. I know she groomed him while he was there, and it was awesome. And we did just have him on the floor. I think the only thing I remember, we got him home and he had a sheet, and I'm going, that's so ugly, a white sheet. No, can't have that on him. So yeah, we got we just got some cloth with it was Māori design on it, with some colour, So and that day I'd also rang the Kiwi coffins and sent my son down to see if there were any coffins there, because they're the cheaper, coffins made here. And my son said, Mum, there's one 5'11". I said, mate, Dad's not 5'11", he's taller. I said, he's not going to fit in that. So they didn't have one the right size. So some wonderful man came out on Christmas Eve and made him a coffin that we could put him in. So, and that arrived home, and my brother painted it up with a kōwhaiwhai pattern, and that's what he went in. But this worked. I was very nervous about this, so I had stuck hot water bottles in the freezer to freeze just in case. And then I think Garth reassured me using the cooling pad he would be fine, and that if I just touched his puku and it was soft, he's fine. So I tell you, all night touch his puku, or in the marae touching his puku, and it was soft the whole time, and he just looked like he normally would look. So that gave me the confidence that there was he was fine. And so we were at home for Christmas Day. That was his last Christmas at home. We took him across to the marae. So we live opposite the marae on Taharangi Street. So they took the cooling mat across early, and we put him in the casket in the morning, and then waited till we were given a time to be there, so like 9 o'clock, and we just walked him across the road, and that was already waiting, all set up, and that's what we used. So it was just worked really well. And even though I was conscious of the temperature, and the more people that came in the room, the temperature was like, oh God, is he going to be cold enough? It was going down 9 when it was up 16 in the morning, and then, but it all worked fine. There were no problems with it. Oh, one problem. So men. So they carry the coffin. They carry the coffin in. And so I knew that the hose was there. You have to be really careful of the hose because it can get damaged. So it was back from the wall a bit so that his casket would fit on it, and the hose was okay. But no, one of the guys, the cuzzies at the top, had to, hang on, we'll push it up here. And I'm going, no. But they plonked the casket on. I'm sitting there trying to lift the casket up underneath, with something out of my bag so it wouldn't squash the hose. So all I wanted was that hose to be cared for and looked after so that the machine worked. Yeah, so it worked, I have to say it worked really well. And the only thing was we were having the service outside and I went back in the wharenui before we left and it had defrosted. So there was water. And I was thinking, I'm going to get told off by the nannies if I let that water go over the wharaki and the wharenui. So I'll throw a towel on it, so it was all good. It worked so well that there were people from home, from Raglan, that came to the tangi. And now they want me to go home and talk about the cooling pads. So they've been ringing me up, when are you going to come and talk to the kaumātua? And so that's what I want to do. The one other thing, which men again, no taringas, I had said to them, please don't dig a deep 6-foot hole. And I said, who's in charge? My nephew, the younger one. You're in charge, make sure they don't. Yes, auntie, yes, auntie. Oh, well, he slept in, didn't he? So the men, the older ones, had gone out and dug this hole and I'm going, that is not 1 metre. So, it's that sort of, because we're so used to doing things in a certain way, that we just keep doing it like that when you don't have to. But I think the great thing about having this at the marae was that people became curious. So they saw the little refrigeration unit there and they were going, what is it? So I was able to explain to them at Purepureaki about the cooling pad. So it's about informing people and they were just, we want that. As soon as people saw it and heard about it, it started generating an interest. So